All right, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into a case that'll chill you to the bone. We're talking about a seemingly ordinary high school in Maracay, Venezuela, where the line between reality and something far stranger starts to blur.
A high school, you say? Those hallways always seem to hold on to more than just memories, don't they?
You got that right, and what makes this case even more compelling is our primary source. A teacher, a self-proclaimed skeptic who experienced it all firsthand and came out the other side, well, a believer.
Oh, I love when that happens. The skeptic turned believer always makes for a fascinating story. So where do we even begin with this one?
So our teacher starts by describing this gradual descent into unease, almost like the school itself was trying to send out warning signals. He talks about these pockets of icy cold that just defy explanation. Like, even on the hottest day, you could walk into a certain classroom and be hit with this bone-chilling cold.
It's funny you mentioned those subtle environmental changes, because that's a pretty common theme in paranormal reports.
Yeah.
Almost as if the location itself is shifting, becoming charged.
Charged, huh? Okay, so what are we talking about here? Like a battery or something?
Well, some researchers theorize it could be fluctuations in electromagnetic fields or even something impacting the very energy of a place. But honestly, it's still a mystery.
Okay, so we've got these cold spots, but it gets creepier, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like laying the groundwork for something bigger, you know?
Right, like the calm before the storm.
Exactly.
He mentions shadows stretching across classrooms, even on bright, sunny days.
That classic feeling of dread.
And then, of course, that primal fear. We've all felt the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that, because that feeling of being watched is one of the most commonly reported experiences in hauntings and paranormal hotspots.
Really? I mean, I guess it makes sense. You're already on edge, and then you get that feeling.
Exactly. Your senses are heightened, you're more attuned to your surroundings, and suddenly every creak and groan seems amplified.
And in this school, those creaks and groans were definitely leading to something bigger. But it's the story of what the staff began calling the graduating ghost that truly grabbed our teacher's attention.
Oh, the graduating ghost. All right, I'm intrigued. What's the story there?
So picture this. It's graduation day, everyone's gathered, excitement is in the air, and as the national anthem begins, multiple people spot a familiar face in the crowd, a professor who taught at the school.
Okay. Seems pretty normal for graduation, right?
Yeah, except this professor had been seriously ill, hospitalized for months, and was nowhere near the ceremony.
Oh, wow. That sends chills down my spine. You know, that's a classic example of what's called a crisis apparition. It's this phenomenon where people report seeing individuals often near the time of their death or a significant life event. And in this case, graduation, I mean, talk about a milestone.
Wow. And what's even crazier is that this wasn't just a fleeting glimpse. Multiple people saw him during the ceremony.
Right. And those multiple witnesses, that's what makes these cases so compelling.
So is it possible these apparitions, these figures, are they trying to communicate something?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are they coming back for comfort, closure, or is it something else entirely?
It definitely makes you think. But the plot thickens even more because a week later, a parent and student at the school claimed to have seen this same professor in the hallway.
No way.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a one-time thing.
Nope. But here's the kicker. When they mentioned it to a staff member, they were told the professor was actually at home on leave.
So either they saw his ghost or...
Weeks later, the professor passed away.
Oh, wow. You know, what I find fascinating about this case is that we're not just talking about fleeting shadows or unexplained noises. We're talking about multiple witnesses, clear sightings, and a consistent figure. It really makes you question what we perceive as reality.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're about to hear about what happened when the military got involved. And if those stories weren't creepy enough already, this next part is where things get really interesting because now we're bringing in the military.
Okay, yeah, because you wouldn't expect people who are trained to be, you know, observant and skeptical to be easily spooked.
Exactly. So picture this. It's election day in Venezuela, and the school, like a lot of public buildings, is being used as a polling station.
Makes sense.
And to make sure everything runs smoothly, there are military personnel stationed there, you know, keeping an eye on things.
Right, standard procedure.
Right. And they're assigned to spend the night at the school in the teacher's lounge. Seems like a pretty cushy gig, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're out in the middle of nowhere or anything.
No, not at all. But here's where things take a turn for the strange. The day after the election, when the school staff came back, they were met with a sight that made them stop dead in their tracks.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat.
The soldiers, instead of bunking down in the teacher's lounge like they were supposed to, had moved their entire operation outside.
Wait, what? They moved everything outside?
Yep. They set up a full-blown military tent right there in the middle of the school parking lot.
You're kidding. I mean, that's not exactly a subtle move, is it? Something must have really freaked them out.
You got that right. And when the school staff finally got a hold of one of the soldiers, a sergeant, he was visibly shaken like he'd seen a ghost.
Oh, no.
And he told them, he described how the soldiers had seen figures moving in the hallways, heard their names called out in the dead of night.
No way.
And get this, one soldier even claimed to have been physically attacked by an unseen entity.
Physically attacked. Okay, that's a whole other level of creepy.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, are we talking about residual energy here or something more malevolent?
It's a chilling thought. And it's even creepier. The teacher noted that similar events had been reported by soldiers stationed at the school during previous elections.
So it's not just a one-time thing.
Nope. It's like whatever's happening in that school is connected to the elections themselves, or maybe the influx of people, the energy they bring.
Or maybe, and this is just a thought, maybe it's something that gets stirred up whenever there's a change in the energy of the school.
It's enough to make you want to skip voting altogether, isn't it? But for our teacher, avoiding the paranormal was no longer an option. His personal experiences were just beginning. And just when you thought it couldn't get any creepier, we get to the teacher's own personal experiences in that haunted high school.
Because, it's one thing to hear about these events, but it's another thing entirely to live through them.
Right. And his first truly terrifying encounter takes place against the backdrop of a real tragedy.
Oh, man.
Oh.
Okay, this is getting eerie.
It's January 2010, the first day back at school after the holiday break. Everyone's still kind of in that relaxed post-holiday mood. But the mood quickly shifts because there had been a horrible car accident near the school earlier that day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and understandably, very few students show up.
So there's already this kind of, somber atmosphere, even before anything paranormal happens.
Exactly. And because it's a Monday, the teachers are all stuck doing administrative work. Our narrator, he's in the administration office with the vice principal when they start hearing noises coming from the floor above.
Like what kind of noises?
Footsteps, running, what sounds like laughter, things you wouldn't typically associate with an empty school.
Yeah, that's creepy enough on its own.
Right. Now, any normal person would probably brush it off. But remember, this is a school with a reputation.
Right. They've already had those creepy encounters, so it's like...
Yeah, it's like, here we go again. So our teacher, being the brave soul that he is, he decides to investigate. He goes upstairs, and get this, all the classrooms are locked up tight. He even checks the library also locked. The only other staff members are in the teacher's lounge, totally oblivious to the sounds.
So if it wasn't the other teachers or students, who or what was making those noises?
Exactly, and it gets even weirder. Fast forward to the afternoon, most of the staff had gone home by then. Only a handful of teachers, including our narrator, are left. They're all gathered in a classroom on the first floor when they hear it again. This time, it's the sound of furniture being dragged across the floor, but coming from one of the locked classrooms above them.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. They assume it must be the cleaning lady. She usually works late.
Right, a perfectly logical explanation.
But then, a moment later, the cleaning lady pokes her head in, and she's terrified. She's asking who's up there making all that noise.
Oh, no. That's when they realize.
It dawns on them there's no logical explanation. The school is practically deserted.
So what do?
Well, they cautiously make their way upstairs, hearts pounding, and what they see is like something out of a horror movie. Chairs, tables, even a heavy desk are moving on their own as if being dragged by unseen hands.
No way. You're kidding.
One table even slides out into the hallway right in front of them.
And this is where those theories about poltergeist activity come into play, right? Like, are we talking about some kind of energy buildup connected to that tragic accident?
Yeah. It's a chilling thought, and it's in this moment, witnessing this undeniable display of the paranormal, that our teacher's skepticism finally crumbles. He and the other teachers, they flee the school, the sound of scraping furniture and banging doors echoing behind them.
Oh, man. I bet. I'd be running for the hills, too.
And the story doesn't end there. They later hear that even people outside the school had heard the commotion. People walking by, people in their homes nearby, they'd all heard these strange sounds coming from the school. It's like whatever force was present wanted to make its presence known, not just to those inside, but to anyone within earshot.
Wow. So it wasn't just limited to the school itself, this energy or whatever it was spilling out into the surrounding area.
It seems that way, and that idea that some places can hold on to energy onto events in a way that we can't even begin to comprehend, well, that's what makes this case and so many others like it absolutely fascinating.
It certainly makes you think twice about the places we inhabit, the history that lingers within their walls.
Exactly. And for our teacher, this terrifying experience was merely a prelude to something even more personal, more unsettling. But we'll save that part of the story for our next deep dive. Until then, keep those lights on and those minds open. You never know what might be lurking just around the corner.